stardust so shine.
Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from Black midwives, doulas, and other traditional childbirth supporters who have dedicated their lives to being of service to Black mothers and families in all aspects of the motherhood journey. This evening, I have the privilege of speaking with Larice Johnson, owner of Love Johnson Doula Services and practicing doula. She is a wife of 4 years and a mom to one lovely mini diva. Larice met her husband while obtaining her undergraduate degree at Frostburg State University and gave birth to their daughter in her last year there. Larice is a trained birth, postpartum, and bereavement doula supporting families in the Maryland area. She has trained with a number of Black POC organizations and is currently working with families choosing to give birth in hospitals, birth centers, and private residences. Her goal is to provide space for Black and POC birthers and birthers in other marginalized communities to safely and comfortably birth in their most ideal way. Larice believes the only way to ensure safety and comfort throughout pregnancy, during labor and delivery, and recovering through postpartum is through education and support. She gathers fact-based information and pairs it with a gentle touch to advocate for, empower, support, and love her clients through this wonderful, life-altering time. Thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Larice. I am so grateful to have you on this platform and to get this conversation going.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Good. So we're gonna jump right into it.
Okay.
So just how we typically start the show, I would really like to understand, like, what were your experiences growing up prior to your introduction to motherhood, or what a doula is, or any of this childbirth information that you're professionally exposed to. What were your messages growing up around pregnancy, labor, delivery, all of those things?
So growing up, it was a lot of family involved. I remember being at like the labor of my nieces and nephews from like a very, very young age. So like a lot of family involved, but they were all at the hospital. Like they were all at the hospital, all, regular OBGYNs, the westernized, that type of tradition.
Right.
But it was definitely filled with a lot of family, like a lot of generations being there. I remember my mom being there, me being there, and just a lot of people kind of.
Yes. So it was a gathering of sorts.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So at what point in your experience did you come into the awareness of where you are now with this understanding of the process, the options, all of those things?
I was definitely late in life. I was pregnant with my daughter when I realized, like, what, there are other options. Like, I don't have to go to the hospital. I don't have to do all these things. It's like, but it was very much late. And like I said, I had my daughter when I was in college, so I didn't really have access to all of those things. So it was mainly after I had her that I did the, my own personal research to what are the other options, like what other support could you have, because family support is great, but like having that educational like touch could really just help throughout the way. And it definitely, I didn't learn that until I kind of did my own research afterwards.
Gotcha. And I find that that's common. Like with most people, we don't know until we're in the situation. And then it's like you start taking classes or what have you and get exposed to this information. So was there anything about your experience that led you to the doula aspect, or what this, childbirth education? Because that's something I see that you speak a lot to from just the information you shared, empowering people through education. How did that, get ignited?
Yes, definitely. I definitely had some problems like kind of like further down the line with my daughter, I had some complications that made me have to go back and be rehospitalized afterwards. And I had to do a lot of advocating for myself because I was the first in my immediate family to breastfeed exclusively. I think honestly at all. So I didn't have a lot of like education in that area. It was just kind of do whatever you can to continue this process because it doesn't happen often. So I had some information from like a sister of mine who told me like the first month was very, very crucial and I had to have baby to breast. So I had to do a lot of advocating for myself to get my baby to be able to be in the hospital with me during that time. And that was hard. That was very, very hard. And having somebody like there to be able to help you with that, you know, help you find your voice in that. That just kind of drove me, that feeling of being kind of feeling like you need to say something and you don't really know what to say, you're not being comfortable. That drove me to want to be, you know, help other women find their voice when they need to use it for roles of advocacy for themselves and like to educate yourselves on things that can happen because they tried to, you know, they tried to tell me all these things like this couldn't happen with my baby or this couldn't happen with myself or I couldn't do this no longer. But I took the education that I did on my own and brought it to the table. Like, that's not true. I can bring my baby.
Right. Wow. So that definitely speaks to why there's such a need for what it is that you do and the advocacy that you provide, and a direct connection. So what were the steps that you took to, I guess, acquire the training? I know you spoke about working with multiple Black and POC organizations. Where did that take you?
So this like ties into like another one of the things that we're going to touch on, but like the pandemic made it so accessible because the first step that I did to find, you know, to start this journey was to do a lot of research. A lot of what I do is a lot of research involved. And I was given so much information from, you know, people that were already in the community saying that the place that you train with is very, very important. Where you get your information is very important. So I did a lot of research and I found the NBDA, and then I found another birth workers of color organization that did a lot of advocacy and did a lot of standing up for Black mothers in, you know, what's going on. So I kind of gravitated to those organizations because I knew I wanted my practice to be very, very Black woman driven.
Yes. No, that's beautiful and greatly needed and appreciated. You know, prior to the pandemic, and especially now where we're limiting, you know, who can be in the hospital, you know, who has access. So I truly appreciate that. From your experience, I know you mentioned certain things that you came into understanding of after the fact, and it was kind of like maybe an aha moment for while you were going through your experience. If you would have known, are there key things that you may have done differently had you had the education that you came?
Yes, definitely. I would have not encountered any interventions at all, including my induction, like starting with my induction. That is the main point of intervention that the hospital systems love to push, and they love to give a ultimate due date when we all know it's an estimated due date. So it's like it doesn't they are not very solid answers, and the hospital system treats it like it's a solid answer. And
Right.
because I did have to have my daughter via C-section, it really scares me that I'm going to have a lot of encouragement to go back to the hospital system. But I think the first step would just to be to stay away as, you know, as much as possible and decline any intervention at all.
And what you spoke to, you know, also touches on the importance of advocacy because from the push for pain meds and intervention and
Yes.
in such a vulnerable state, and for someone to be like, well, I don't think you can do it, or you know, let me help you, or what have you, and not to have
Mm-hmm.
someone understands your birth plan, understands what your desires are, and can say in this moment, like, I'm shutting that down. This is
Right.
what she wants to do, and kind of moving from that. And also what you spoke to from the breastfeeding perspective as well. Just being able to have the support and the advocacy when someone, you know, might be telling you otherwise or you can't do this. Because you mentioned having being able to advocate for yourself and bringing your your daughter into the hospital with you, or allowing her to stay?
Yes. So when I think it was 2 or 3 days after I was discharged from the hospital. I think it was 2 days after I started experiencing some chest pains, and then and honestly, I didn't want to stir the pot. Honestly, I was just like, let me just be home, my baby. So I kept trying to ignore it, but then it got really bad. So I had to go back to the hospital, and they thought it was pneumonia, so they just kept kind of trying to keep me. And I was saying, I just came from maternity floor. I need to go back there. Like, my baby needs to be with me. Like, I'm exclusively breastfeeding. And they were saying, like, trying to put me through all these hoops. But ultimately, the only rule in place was saying that they couldn't take my baby to the nursery. They couldn't care for my baby. And that's not what I wanted them to do at all. So once I kind of got that squared away, they let me be back there. And then I think it was 1 or 2 medications that they tried to give me that I couldn't take, but I had this website that I double checked with. And like I said, a sister of mine she was the only person that was in my close circle who did breastfeed, and she's a doctor. So we were talking the whole time, trying to figure out what medications I could take, what medications I couldn't take, what procedures I couldn't take. So we kind of just work through it the whole time. And every time they would try to push it, I would be like, no. And then again, my sister's a doctor, so I just would call her and say, please tell them I can't do this. And she would kind of do it for me. But just having somebody there, like, just to help or support you in the decisions that you're making, because they will try to make you seem like you're not picking the right choice. Like, this is not more important.
Right, right. And I think that's a very good example of what advocacy looks like, because to not know what your choices or your options are, to tell for someone to tell you in an authoritative uh, position that you have to be here and your child can't be here, or you have to take these medications,
Mm-hmm.
even though you know it will impact your breastfeeding or might not be favorable. So I think it's exceptional that you had the know-how to be able to navigate that, but also how does that impact how you provide services to mothers?
It does heavily, very heavily, because my first thing is to, if your instinct tells you that you need to act on this, or you need to say this, that's what we need to move on. And if you need more research or whatever, we're going to act on that. Like, we are going to see that through if we can. Like, if, some things are not possible. Some things, we feel in our gut and it's not possible, but we will see it through. That's my number one thing. And then to advocate. So if you don't feel comfortable saying, like, starting a conversation, I'll step in and start a conversation with a doctor, or start a conversation with a family member, because a lot of, the things can go both ways. It can go the hospital setting, and it also can unfortunately go with our family settings when our beliefs kind of go against what our families may have. It's maybe some hard conversations that we may have to have with our families, but I can start them and, open up, get everyone comfortable, and then you feel more comfortable and you're able to go in and do that.
Very nice. So I'd like to definitely talk about the services that you provide, and I think it's somewhat unique to have a perspective of the hospital, the birth center, and the residential births. So, are there any kind of differences that you've seen in providing services as far as the different settings that they take place?
So no, I haven't really seen any difference. I have, because my practice really started during COVID. I haven't really seen it inside of places really often, because it's a lot of virtual options, and the virtuals are a little bit different because they're more personal with the client themselves, and it's less about um, actual facing the staff of these places. So it's more encouragement to advocate for yourself. Unfortunately, because we're in this pandemic and we can't have other people, present with you. But in regards to it being virtual or it being at home, like postpartum, it's definitely been. You can see like a difference. Like, people will come that come from a hospital. They want to kind of go, 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 go. They have a faster mentality than, like, clients that may have a home birth or may have a more intimate setting during labor, things like that. Sometimes they just have a more slow and relaxed kind of mentality.
Wow, gotcha. Okay, and that kind of makes sense, especially with kind of the different energies of those spaces. So
Yeah.
appreciate that, insight. So what kind of services do you provide?
Right now, I provide birth services. So that is for prenatal visits, birth support, and then postpartum care, which can be provided in big lumps, like large time frames, like 4 to 5 hours, or smaller time frames, like throughout the week, or like evening care. Overnight postpartum care, and I have like little packages that I like to make. I love to add like a little touch of things on. What else? And I provide virtual postpartum care and consultations and like menu planning virtually for anywhere.
Nice, very nice. So, are there any examples of kind of what epitomizes why you do the work that you do, whether it's your personal experiences or people that you have worked with or what you've witnessed that kind of just really confirm what your passion is around doing the work you do?
So I would definitely say that all of my life I knew I would work in some type of at service type of field. Um, so I've always had the nurture part of me, like the taking care of people. I have four brothers, and I feel like I'm growing into the role of like a kind of caregiver, like my mom. So it's a lot of care. I was always surrounded by a lot of care, always providing a lot of care. And I feel like now, after I had my daughter and I didn't have a lot of that educational aspect, it's a lot of education that I just want to seek. I just want to get all of the information. And I really like to pair them both. Like, I like to, like, for you to feel comfortable and for you to feel loved, for you to feel surrounded by care, but I want you to also be able to stand on the things that you feel, to stand on the things that you're doing, and let you know, and let you be able to walk in the sense of this is being fact based. Like, I'm doing what's best. I'm not just kind of flinging, being out here. So kind of those two things, I feel like it provides a level of like connection. It makes you feel like a person's not just there like as a friend, or they're not just there as a professional, they're there as both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I definitely truly can speak to that because once you've experienced something sacred, like as a support, you become family. How can we
Yeah.
not have some kind of intimate connection because you've just gone through this transformational process with me and my family?
Right, right. And you get all of it. You get all of it. You get, unfortunately, you get the good, bad, and the ugly. Like, it and all the in between.
Right, right, right. So that's amazing. Um, are there any things that are kind of flags or things you look for when we're working with families? Because I know there's a vetting process on both sides, right? Like the doula has to kind of vet the family as well as the family's vetting the doula. Are there any things that you look for when you work with families?
So, unfortunately, I work like the community that I am servicing, like my surrounding area. There is not a lot of people who look like me who are fully aware of what a doula is and what we do. And a lot of the times I run into that. I run into people not knowing exactly what I do. So when I get to their homes, or when we're having these consultations, or when we're speaking in person, um, there's things I'll say I'll do, and they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wash the baby's bottles. Like, that's what I'm here for. I was like, oh yes, I'm gonna wash the baby's clothes. Like, that's also what I'm here for. So there's is not a lot of understanding. It's not a deep understanding of what I do, which unfortunately I think can cause other problems, like them not fully understanding the worth of what is being done because they don't understand the depths of what's being done. So there's a lot of a conflict in that area. But the more you reach out, the more you say like, "Hey, this is what I could do." They're like, "Oh, okay, so maybe I do need you to come now, or maybe I can get you maybe once a month." Like, they have more understanding of what can be done and what having a postpartum doula or having a birth doula could look like.
Right, right. So that education piece again, understanding the options that are available to you. So you mentioned before, like working with certain organizations and a lot of, even the policy work and the advocacy around supporting doula bills and, the understanding of the value it brings to the maternal mortality and just unfavorable birth outcomes. Are there any like kind of call to action items or things that people who are watching this can do that would support in the things that are necessary and valuable to push that forward?
So I'm actually on a leadership circle. I'm the secretary of Baltimore Doula Project. So we work really, really hands on with advocacy for abortion rights and things like the Black maternal health rate. We talk a lot about those things on our Instagram page, and just putting out that information. We talk about the rallies that may be in surrounding areas. The bills when they do get passed, or unfortunately when the things go wrong in that. Like, I'm not sure if you have been even looking into the abortion rights, but they are a mess. So it's kind of heavy on the abortion rights side, but we have so many other things going on. But going to that page and looking a lot on Instagram, a lot of things are talked about on Instagram, honestly.
So it sounds like having an awareness of the issues and being connected to those organizations doing the work is something that people can do to be, proactive and effective in inciting change.
Yeah, and it's like, and honestly, the more we know, because a lot of the things are being done at more localized levels, and if you're not in that very specific area, then you can pass it, you can miss it. But the more knowledge that we have around the things that are going on, the more ways we can connect, and maybe we can see them before they approach in our areas, or when they do approach in our areas, and we're aware of how to vote for those things, what to look for within the votings, and things like that.
Gotcha. So definitely, and I would really want to touch on like how to stay connected. You mentioned the Black Doula. What was the organization that you mentioned in reference?
The Baltimore Doula Project, that's on Instagram.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we hear the stories, we hear the statistics, we want to do something, even if we're no longer in that age of birthing.
Right.
Um, Wanting to be able to take some form of action and support, and just realizing that what you all do is truly a labor of love, like as far as even from a
Yeah.
compensation standpoint, and what you are giving of yourself is significant and the value that it adds is significant. So really wanting to understand what in what ways that people can connect and support. So I appreciate that insight, and we'll definitely be getting those websites. I also want to speak to you just about. I know we talked about education. Is there any books or classes or resources that people who are listening who may be in the process or considering conception can use to better prepare themselves?
So I said I trained with the NBDA, the National Black Doula Association. If you go to their website, honestly, they are always, always, always hosting trainings, like different trainings. They have so many resources on their page. They have a directory. It's so many things, so many ways to get connected. They have like contracts that you can go and you can, that could be a purchase. And also the birth workers of color on Instagram, they have a lot of opportunities. I think they do. I think they do trainings about quarterly, but they have scholarship options and so many options like that. But as far as free options, honestly, just looking up questions like on Google and searching those, and searching, through the websites, doing a lot of home research can get you a really long way, because a lot of the information in the doula, in the trainings, there are things that you can find on your own. It's just the way that they are collected and the way they're put together. And then, the extra step of giving you like the business aspect, that is what, you mainly get from those trainings. But you can learn a lot of information on your own. It's just, you have to look for them and look through good resources, good sources and things that can be reliable. But the more you look through them, the more you'll see the good websites, the good sources, the bad ones, and the things that repeat themselves, things that kind of trail off. You can take off your list, things like that. But a lot of the things you can look up. You can try to start doing some just mini research. Like you have a question, just look it up and see what you find on your own.
Wow. Yeah. So again, education, and I truly am an advocate for education as a form of empowerment, right? So that you can make good choices and decisions. So whether you're thinking about becoming a doula or your family thinking of conceiving, the information is there. It's basically it sounds like you're saying. So like get in touch, get connected, find out as much as you can, because like you, I wasn't aware of any of my options until I found out I was pregnant, and it was like, oh, I guess we need to figure some things out.
Yeah, it's unfortunately a lot of last minute kind of like seeing things, and unfortunately we hit these walls a lot of times at the hospitals that we're forced to find other ways. And it's at those points where you're like, I can't see this doctor anymore, I don't want to. Then you kind of have to go outside the box and see what else you can find. And that's not good. That's fine. Trying to look for things under pressure. It's trying to look for things like reaching a time clock.
Yeah, definitely. And you're already in a vulnerable space. That like your pregnant brain is very different from your not pregnant brain. So
right.
Having to make those kind of pivots is going to have an added layer to it. So I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate what you're doing. So if you could just let everyone know, like, what it is that you're offering, how to get in touch with you, the areas that you service. Now that we're virtual, is that like expanded? So please.
Yes. So virtually, yes, it has expanded. A lot of the things I do, though, I like to have a personal touch to them. I do like to see clients in person. So virtual options are more things like, virtual check-ins. I have that option like via text message. I have virtual like meal planning, things like that offered. But as far as doula services, I offer birth and postpartum packages or individual services in the Maryland area. And I also offer add-on packages like little baskets, food planning services, meal delivery, and light housekeeping to like larger housekeeping. I also provide bereavement support for abortion or infant loss.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And how can people get in touch with you?
I can be found on Instagram at Larice Johnson Doula or at Facebook at Larice Johnson Doula. And then on those, I have my Instagram page, which also has my email, which is Love Johnson Doula Services at gmail.com.
That is amazing. And we'll definitely make sure that in the description, we'll have the links to all of those things so people don't necessarily have to try to type it out.
Okay.
That can happen. But yeah, I mean, this has been definitely informative. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate your passion around it. And, it's just been a really great conversation for me.
It has.
Yeah. So I'm grateful that you can get on. I know that there's a lot of things that interconnect. So I know this won't be the last time we're talking.
Absolutely not. Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you having this platform for, us to come on and share our stories and stuff. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Thank you for the love and the support. Please share. There's so much value in hearing the stories and the motivation and the passion that comes through in these conversations. So thank you all for tuning in, and we appreciate y'all. Peace and blessings, family.
Bye-bye.